Could the same sunlight that grows a field of strawberries also power a data center? The rapid expansion of artificial intelligence is meeting a stubborn physical reality: the massive amount of electricity required to keep data centers running. Published on 28 June 2026, this piece examines the tension between the hunger for computing power and the need for fertile land. It asks whether the competition for space is actually a false choice. By looking at agrivoltaics, the practice of farming beneath solar panels, it suggests how a conflict over land might instead become a way to stabilize both food supplies and the grid. Written by Joshua M. Pierce, the conversation in scroll.in, narrated for Arva.
Artificial intelligence use is exploding. More than 50% of new internet content was generated by AI in 2025, according to an industry report. We even train AI on AI-generated content now, and although this can degrade performance, it continues at breakneck pace. All this AI is consuming a lot of energy. It's straining the electrical system, raising consumer electricity costs, and breaking large-scale electrical grid planning. And the AI energy crisis is deepening. The International Energy Agency predicts that global electricity demand from data centers will double by 2030 to more than the electricity consumption of Japan today. At the same time, solar photovoltaic technology, which uses the sun's energy to generate electricity, offers the cheapest energy in the history of the planet. The sector is growing rapidly. However, both solar and AI projects threaten to take over valuable agricultural land, generating public protests. A new study I co-authored reveals agrivoltaics, that is, the use of land for both electricity generation and food production, to be a very promising solution. In the first study of its kind, we found agrivoltaics to be a viable way to meet growing AI energy demands in the United States, while also increasing food production. In Canada, agrivoltaics could produce enough electricity to eliminate the need for fossil fuels on the grid entirely, using less than 1% of the country's agriculture land. Solar panel fences. Agrivoltaics allows farming communities to generate photovoltaic-based electricity while continuing to produce food, sometimes with even higher yields than before. In our study, we looked at two types of agrivoltaics, vertical and single-axis tracker solar, because both of them could be integrated into most farms without inconveniencing farmers. Vertical agrivoltaics are essentially fences made out of solar panels. The solar fences are spaced far enough apart that farmers can drive tractors, combines, and other equipment down field rows without hitting them. Single-axis tracker solar arrays use the same trick. You just space them out for agrivoltaics. The trackers, however, track the sun and thus produce more energy per panel. When farming, they park themselves vertically just like the fences. Both of these types of solar agrivoltaics barely impact the sunlight hitting the crops, so work well with most crops.
A beneficial microclimate. Several studies of a wide variety of food crops, including basil, broccoli, celery, chiltepin peppers, corn, maize, lettuce, pasture grass, potatoes, spinach, tomatoes, and wheat, have demonstrated that agrivoltaics can increase crop yield. For example, we showed strawberry yield in Ontario increased by 18% in a normal year. This is because agrivoltaic solar panels can create a shield effect, generating a beneficial microclimate in which plants are somewhat sheltered from sun, heat, and wind. This shield effect depends on the weather. For example, agrivoltaics generally helps lettuce, but last year's hot summer intensified its shield effect so that lettuce fresh weight increased by more than 400% compared to unshaded control plants, and by over 200% relative to the national average yield. Eliminate fossil fuels. In our study, we used state-level data center energy consumption and modeled agrivoltaic generation potential. We explored how much of the digital sector's demand could realistically be met with agrivoltaics. We also looked at how much farmland would need solar energy investments to overtake AI loads within the American states that have the largest data centers. Our results showed vertical agrivoltaics required only between 0.003 to 2% of farmland across the targeted states. This is almost nothing. Single-axis trackers need even less at 0.001 to 0.548%. America's AI energy crisis could be averted by putting up some single-axis trackers on at most 0.5% of land in less agriculturally rich states.
Canada is even more blessed. Using less than 1% of agriculture land, the country could produce enough electricity to eliminate the need for fossil fuels. That would include energy for everything, not just AI. Dual revenue stream. Agrivoltaics maintains farming jobs, increases food supply, and radically improves farming incomes because of the high value of solar electricity production. It offers a dual revenue stream, one from the sale of agricultural produce and the other from the sale of electricity or by offsetting a farm's electrical needs. Unsurprisingly, agrivoltaics is growing rapidly, and the market has already reached over $14 billion globally. Even the Vatican is now powered by agrivoltaics. Antiquated regulations. In some jurisdictions, however, antiquated regulations effectively prevent new agrivoltaic developments. In Canada, Ontario provides an example.
Agrivoltaics has been economically successful in Ontario when integrated into lamb and sheep grazing to provide vegetation management on conventional solar farms. Unfortunately, this is the only widespread agrivoltaics in the province due to restrictions on large-scale solar deployment on farmlands. To fix this impediment to job creation, food security, and economic development, Ontario can update regulatory guidance to exempt agrivoltaics from the current restrictions. This would attract large-scale capital investments and enable crop-based agrivoltaics. Specifically, the Ontario government can include agrivoltaics as agricultural-related use in the provincial policy statement to circumvent the on-farm diversified use restrictions. That way, we would all get to produce more food and more solar energy to meet rising demands. Joshua M. Pierce is John M. Thompson Chair in Information Technology and Innovation and Professor, Western University. This article was first published on The Conversation.